The AFC North this year is not only going to be featured on HBO's Hard Knocks, but is expected to be the most competitive division in the National Football League for the 2024 season. So today, we're going to break down all the other teams in the AFC North. We talk about the Steelers every single day here on Steelers Talk, and we'll talk a little bit about the Steelers and how they stack up in this division at the end of today's show. But today, we're going to be talking about the Ravens, Browns, and Bengals, breaking down what to expect from those teams this year and where the Steelers rank among these four teams in this division. So before we get into it today, predict it for me down there in the comments section. Which AFC North team is going to win the division? All right, it's always one of the most competitive divisions in football, this year especially. So predict it for me. Who comes away with the division crown? Predict it for me to kick off today's show. So last year, the Steelers finished third in the division at 10-7. Of course, 3 teams from this division made the playoffs last year. 13-4 were the Ravens, 11-6 were the Cleveland Steamers, and then the Cincinnati Pussycats were at 9-8 with Joe Burrow hurt pretty much the entire season. At least at some degree. So first up here, let's talk about the reigning division champions, those dreaded Ratbirds. I hate them just as much as you do, guys. But listen, man, this is a good football team. And even though they lost Mike Macdonald, their defensive coordinator, I mean, this is still a very, very good team that needs to be reckoned with. You take a look at their stats from last year, top 5 in offense and pretty much top 2 in defense. You can make an argument they had the best defense in football last year. They were tied for the most takeaways on defense in the league last season. So obviously this is a team last season that was just absolutely unbelievable, especially in the regular season. So let's take a look at their head coach, John Harbaugh, here and what he has in terms of his offensive and defensive staff. They run a modern pro spread offense with Todd Monken as their second-year offensive coordinator. Monken really took this offense to a whole nother level, replacing Greg Roman, and really adding a lot to the passing game in particular for this Ravens offense. Then on defense, Zach Orr is a first-time defensive play caller in the NFL, replacing Mike Macdonald. And, of course, they run the same attacking 3-4 scheme they ran last year. Key departures for the Baltimore Ravens include their defensive coordinator last year, their boy genius, and Mike Macdonald. Then you got Jadeveon Clowney, their number 1 edge rusher left. Patrick Queen, an all-pro linebacker left. Morgan Moses, one of their starting tackles left. And then also 2 starting guards, Kevin Zeitler and John Simpson. So 3 members of your starting offensive line from last year all gone. Then Odell Beckham Jr. and Geno Stone also left for other teams. But they also made quite a few additions. They added Zach Orr as their new defensive coordinator. They added Derrick Henry to this very potent running game now with Lamar Jackson handing the ball off to King Henry. David Ojabo coming back from injury last year. Same thing with Andrew Voorhees. Those 2 trench players will definitely help them out a lot this year. Nate Wiggins was their first-round pick this year out of Clemson. TJ Tampa is another long corner they got on day 3. Eddie Jackson and Roger Rosengarten are other players that they added that could potentially start. So my take on the Baltimore Ravens this year is that, listen, man, as long as they can keep up that defensive standard that Mike Macdonald had last year under Zach Orr, they should be title contenders once again this year. They got a very potent run game. They still have good enough receivers. Of course, Mark Andrews is returning from injury. Lamar Jackson is still very dynamic. So as much as I hate these guys, I do think Baltimore is once again going to be very successful under John Harbaugh in 2024. But make no mistake, guys, the Pittsburgh Steelers are still the Baltimore Ravens' daddies, and it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever if this team here in the black and gold sweeps the Baltimore Ravens yet again this year, and that might make the difference in the division standings at the end of the day. So coming up here on Steelers Talk, more AFC North breakdowns. We're going to talk about the Browns and the Bengals, and then we'll talk about how the Steelers stack up in this division heading into the year. But before we get into all that great content, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Game Time, which is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater in your area. And guys, we all know that experiencing a sporting event, especially a football game at Acrisure Stadium, whether that be for the Pitt Panthers or for the Pittsburgh Steelers, is unlike anything you can get from watching the game on TV. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So it's really a great feature, guys. All you got to do is you got to get on the Game Time app, pick a game you want to go to, and then you tap GT Picks, meaning Game Time Picks, and it automatically filters through every single ticket in their database, and they use a special algorithm to show you the best possible deals that you can get on their app for that game. It's absolutely unbelievable, and it allows you to do super quick ticket shopping because you don't have to go around and compare prices and all this different stuff. It already does all that for you, so it's the only ticketing app that you need on your phone. And alongside Game Time Picks, which is already a groundbreaking feature, Game Time already had the lowest price guarantee on any ticket to any event. They also have all-in pricing, so you don't get slapped with crazy fees at checkout. And then you also get flash deals right before the start of your event, so you can get even cheaper tickets the longer that you wait. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS. It's one word, all caps, CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, it's only for that first purchase. Create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS, one word, all caps, CHATSPORTS. It's in the bottom right of your screen right now for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. So now let's talk about the Cleveland Steamers here because, listen, man, I got peruse around Browns Twitter every once in a while, and that fan base feels extremely confident in their football team heading into this year. They think Deshaun Watson is going to be a superstar quarterback. They think this team is going to win the Super Bowl for the first time in their pathetic franchise's history. So let's take a look at what they did last year. Take a look at the offensive stats and defensive stats. Points per game last year defensively wasn't as good as maybe this defense is billed out to be. They have a really good pass rush. They were really efficient in terms of the yards per play given up. But listen, man, the yards per play on offense last year was abysmal at 28th in the league. They also had the most giveaways out of any offense in football. So they're hoping that those trends do not continue this year. Kevin Stefanski won Coach of the Year, and I didn't agree with that pick whatsoever if you're asking me personally, but he did win the trophy last year. The offensive scheme that he runs is a Mike Shanahan style, second generation West Coast offense run by Stefanski himself. And then you get to the defense, and the big X factor last year for Cleveland was bringing in Jim Schwartz, their new defensive coordinator, who runs a 3-4 attacking scheme. Lots of blitzing, lots of press man coverage, very aggressive. And that's why they had so much success last year. So key departures for this football team this offseason: Joe Flacco, who was this team's best quarterback last year. Yes, I'm just going to say it. Deshaun Watson was not the best quarterback on this team last year. Donovan Peoples-Jones, Sione Takitaki, and Anthony Walker Jr. were the other starters to leave. Then some key additions for the Cleveland Browns. Jameis Winston is their new backup quarterback, who is pretty much a younger version of Joe Flacco. They both throw the ball down the field. They both put the ball in harm's way. Very, very similar play style of quarterbacks there. Jerry Jeudy is the wide receiver they acquired via trade. Good luck with his butterfingers. Jamari Thrash, Jordan Hicks, and Devin Bush are some other starters they added this year. So my take on the Cleveland Browns is that Deshaun Watson's going to drag this team down. Eventually, Nick Chubb is expected to be back. Amari Cooper is still here. He's still very good. The defense and the pass rush are still excellent, and the defense as a whole is excellent. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a quarterback in this league that can at least be efficient, you're not going to be a good football team. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if Jameis Winston is the starting quarterback of this football team by week 18. So fill in the blank for me down there in the comments section. Deshaun Watson is the blank best starting quarterback in the NFL today. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. What you guys are thinking. For me personally, I'd put him somewhere in between the 22nd to 26th best quarterback. He's definitely not in the top 10 any longer. Make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. If you hate the Cleveland Browns, I know I hate the Cleveland Steamers. If you're with me on that, make sure you click that thumbs up icon and rep your team. And finally here, let's get to the Pussycats. They're in Cincinnati. I think a lot of people feel like Joe Burrow is fully healthy again. This is going to be a very good football team. But, you have to take into account that the Cincinnati Bengals defense last year was straight up garbage. Kenny Pickett looked good against this defense last year, and they lost some players on their defense this offseason. Some very big players on their defense that we'll get to in a second, but dead last in yards per play allowed, 21st in points per game allowed. And then the offense, obviously Joe Burrow was hurt, and then he really got hurt, and Jake Browning came in, protected the football well. But listen, man, this defense is going to have to play a lot better if they want to win the division and make the playoffs. out of the AFC North this year. Key departures here, nose tackle DJ Reader, one of the best nose tackles in the league. He's going to be sorely missed in terms of their run defense this year. Joe Mixon, their starting running back, left. Their number one corner, Chidobe Awuzie, left in free agency. Tyler Boyd, a good slot receiver, left for Tennessee as well. And then Jonah Williams, one of their starting tackles, left in free agency. But they do add some people in free agency here. They do add a couple of offensive tackles, some guys that I really liked heading into free agency and in the draft. For those of you that followed our offseason coverage, you guys know that I was a big advocate of getting Trent Brown. The Bengals went out and got him. I was a big advocate for going out and getting Amarius Mims in the draft. They got both of those guys. Mims has been dealing with injuries, so I guess we'll see how this offensive line shakes out. But they also got Zach Moss, Mike Gesicki, Jermaine Burton out of Alabama, a very talented receiver. Keep your eye on Burton this year. Sheldon Rankins, a defensive tackle, Von Bell, and Geno Stone to be their new safety tandem. Now, listen, man, obviously Joe Burrow returning fully healthy. You still got Jamar Chase, if he plays, that is. T. Higgins, Mike Gesicki, Jermaine Burton. They do have some good pieces on this offense, and I do think the offense will be good. But to be competitive in this division, you have to have a legitimate defense. They didn't have that last year, and I'm not sure if they made enough additions on that side of the ball to really feel good about that side of the ball in Cincinnati this year. So it's a big question. I guess we'll see how it all plays out. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Will the Bengals defense stink again this year? Give me a yes or a no. For me personally, I think they're going to get better than they were last year. It's hard to be worse than you were last year if you're the Bengals, but I definitely don't think it's going to be a top 10 unit in the NFL. So now we've gone over the other three teams in the AFC North. Let's talk about how the Pittsburgh Steelers stack up in this division, okay? And, I think that there's four main categories that you want to look at when comparing your team to other teams. That's coaching staff, quarterback, offense, and defense. For me, I think the Steelers still have the best coaching staff in the division. Now, maybe you disagree and you think Mike Tomlin stinks, but personally, I think Mike Tomlin is an awesome head coach, and I think he's the best head coach in this division. Quarterback and offense overall, I don't think they're on the same level as Lamar Jackson and the Ravens or Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't think they have quite the star talent to keep up with those guys, but they're not the worst. I think Cleveland does have the worst offense because they do have the worst quarterback. And then defensively, I think the Steelers might have not only the best defense in this division, but the best defense in football. They got an incredible pass rush, a lockdown number one corner, Joey Porter Jr., some real nice pieces at inside linebacker, Minkah Fitzpatrick, roam in the middle. I think this defense is going to be special this year. And it's going to be the reason why the Steelers are heavily, heavily competitive in this division. Now, what I will say here, guys, is that on paper, I think the Steelers are the third best team in the division. Okay, but there's a reason why these things get decided on the field and not in terms of on paper before the season starts. I think Baltimore, when you look at their roster, it's the best overall roster, maybe in football. Then you get to Cincinnati, lots of great talent, especially offensively. I think on paper you take Cincinnati over Pittsburgh. But here's the thing, man. Like I said, this thing is going to be won on the field, especially in the AFC North, where you know that those division matchups at the end of the season are going to determine division rankings, playoff seeding, all that stuff. And that's where Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers thrive. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if we see the Pittsburgh Steelers at the top of this division this year. Honestly, I could see any team in this division, maybe other than Cleveland, win the division. I'm pretty bullish on Deshaun Watson being pretty darn bad this year. But, I think if you're saying the Ravens, Bengals, or Steelers win the division this year, I think that's pretty realistic. Now it's your turn. Let me know down there in the comments section, where will the Steelers finish in the AFC North this year? Will they finish first, second, third, or fourth? Let me know your take down there in the comments section. Thank you for stopping by today, man. If you want more Steelers content like this every single day, keeping you guys informed on everything Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure you click that subscribe button right now and help us get to 60,000 subscribers.